Hello, hello. Just filling up my coffee here. Happy Tuesday. Wow, that view is kind of trippy. Hope you guys are all here for CIS 1501. Oh, I should mute my phone, shouldn't I? This is Computer Science 1 for data scientists. There we go. Glad you guys could make it. Looks like a decent number of you here, hanging out live. Again, if you can't make it live, we'll have the videos here on Twitch, and I'll probably export them over to YouTube so they don't get removed after 45 days, because someone wanted an old video one time and got mad at me that Twitch removed it, so, okay. It's a little bright behind me, but hopefully it's not too bad. Can I don't know if that makes it any better. One of those things with my lamp. Maybe. Alright, so today is the course introduction. We'll see how far we get into working in Python. So hopefully you got a chance to look at the syllabus. I apologize, I am going to read some of it to you, at least. You know, not all the details or anything like that, but at least the high level important stuff that matters here. And then if you are interested in chat, go ahead and join in on Twitch chat. It is recorded in public, just FYI, so you're probably not using your real name like me, and that's perfectly fine. No expectation there. I can figure out who you are later. And really, it doesn't matter what your name is if you're asking questions in the lecture. So I've been using Twitch for a year and a half, 2 years now, I want to say, year and a half probably. Actually, before all of this COVID remote learning stuff happened, I drink a lot of coffee. And someone had asked in one of my classes if I could make recordings, and I had been on Twitch, I've been following lots of channels and you know, enjoying lots of good content for a while. I said, hey, I should try this, it might be fun, and it's automatically recorded for me. I thought, win-win. So I've been using it for a little while now. Again, I'm not an advanced Twitch streamer or anything like that. It's pretty vanilla. I do have a bot, which is cool now, so you can do a couple interesting commands. If anyone wants to try exclam Discord, it should give you a link to the Discord, or exclam TKF for the Knowledge Fellowship. I was highlighted in an article a while back along with Professor Melko, who teaches chemistry out of Florida, and I got a chance to connect with him, and I've been following him around for a while. He does physical chemistry on Twitch. He has his office hours, which is T as in the Knowledge Fellowship, TKF. Thanks for shouting those out, Savage. So he's been doing a lot of stuff on Twitch as well. It started with his office hours, and now with remote learning, he's moved lectures online as well. So it's been fun. You can check a lot of people out and just learn some stuff for free, which is cool. I'm much more a fan of Twitch and trying to build up a little bit of a community. I mean, I'm not expecting lots of people to come hang out and take some coding classes here, but much better than Zoom, I think. And really, I don't need you guys to have your webcams on and be peeking into your living rooms or bedrooms or wherever you're doing your learning. So you guys can see my home office, and sure, that's fine, because I'm the one presenting and showing some content. So let me know how it works for you. If you have questions, again, feel free, hop in on the lecture voice chat in Discord if you prefer talking at me rather than having to type your questions in. Both should be perfectly fine. I think I have it set up. It's been a little while that you won't hear the desktop audio on Twitch, but if we can try that out at some point and see if someone ever wants to talk to me, to see if everyone else hears you or not. And there is a slight delay because of the streaming. I think it's probably less than 5 seconds or so it's not too big of a deal. But please do interrupt if you have questions or chat. Usually in class I'm super informal, and I like people to just shout at me. Because if you have a question, it's very likely someone else has a question too. So you might as well ask whatever's on your mind. And you guys are missing out. In person, I usually bring my coffee to share. So I've got my pot here and my mug, and I'll probably drink this whole thing while we're meeting for this hour 15 or so. So if we can ever meet in person, I'd be happy to share some coffee with you, maybe maybe on lab on, we're probably not supposed to drink in the lab on Mondays because you have to have a mask on for that. So I don't know. I was going to offer to share, but that's probably a bad idea. We probably just won't eat or drink anything in the lab on Mondays. Yeah, community edition of Pycharm is perfect. You don't need anything special. And I'll go through all that today when we do the course introduction, get you guys set up. And because of the Labor Day holiday, right, we don't have lab next Monday, so we're going to try and meet in person the Monday after. It's actually a little bit silly to be meeting in person, aside from the fact you can use one of the college computers and the resources there, because we are agreeing to not get within 6 feet of each other, so I can't even like come over to your computer and look at your code. So we're going to do screen sharing on Mondays if you have questions about your code for me to help, and we'll see how it goes. We're going to do our best, and we'll power through, and if it turns out it works best to just do remote labs, I'm perfectly fine to move to remote labs. If you guys want to come in and use the college computers, great. If you want to come in and bring your own laptops, great. Whatever is going to work out best for you guys. For Mondays, we'll figure out and we'll adjust. So, a little introduction. I'm sorry, I just jumped right in. Hopefully you had a chance to Google me. As far as I know, I'm the only Eric Chernesky in the world, so I'm not too hard to find. You can check out my LinkedIn profile. It's basically like your online resume, right? It has all your stuff here. So I've been in software development for a long time, worked in a couple of different industries, and I love learning. I'm a big geek. I do play Dungeons & Dragons. There is a student game club that runs a couple Dungeons & Dragons sessions. They used to play video games in person, but I guess they're taking a break on that for reasons. So yeah, here's our class, the syllabus. You can contact me by cell phone. There supposedly is a phone number for me on campus, but I've never used it. And especially now that I'm not going to campus, just don't bother. Call me pretty much anytime between 8 in the morning and midnight. I'm probably up and around and doing something. So, or text. I'm pretty good at texting. If you do call and I can't answer, leave me a voicemail. Let me know what time is good to call you back. I've called people back before at 10, 11 p.m. and they get mad at me because they have to get up early and work. So, just because I'm up, maybe you're not going to be. So let me know what time is good. And then in terms of office hours, my current plan, unless everyone says this is terrible, is to just hang out after class on Discord, and we can do any sort of screen sharing if we need to there. So I'll end the Twitch stream. I'll just hang out in the Discord channel or the voice channel there. I've got one for office hours that's separate from the lecture voice chat, which actually seems a little silly to have separate ones now, but whatever. All right, in terms of goals for the class, this is the program learning goals from the data science program. So these are things you should be able to learn through the program itself. Specific course objectives, things that we're going to tackle here. Hopefully you had a chance to look at them. Material. So we're going to use an online textbook called Zybooks. It's actually pretty good. It's gotten more expensive than it used to be since they got bought out by someone bigger, which is unfortunate, but it's usually a little cheaper than most of the textbooks we've seen. So we're going to use that one, and you do get points for doing it, which is cool. Like you get points for reading your textbook, essentially. It's a little bit more than reading, right? It's got some interactive stuff going on. And then I need you guys to make a GitHub account. I'll post a little Google form later. You can give me your username so that I can create repositories for you. Again, I'll get into all that, show you some demos. Don't sweat it too much. And then for me, I'm going to be doing everything in Pycharm for the development environment in Python. So we can use a nice debugger and step through our code. It's fantastic. It's free, the community edition. If you prefer a different environment, you're perfectly welcome to use it. I honestly don't really care which one you use, but this is the one I'm going to be showing. I know there are some other popular ones out there in the industry, but this one works pretty well, especially for debugging. What everyone really cares about is how they get their grade. So these are percentage of the final grade. So among all of the labs that we do, they'll make up 10% of your final grade. Among all the quizzes that you'll have, we do a quiz every chapter. It's open book, open notes, like unlimited time on it, so don't sweat it. It's not meant to be hard, but it's meant to make sure you're actually reading the book and getting some information out of it. You can just click the stuff in Zybooks and mostly get through it without paying a whole lot of attention. So I have quizzes on the particular interesting topics, things that I care about. And then you'll get 10% just for doing your Zybook. I don't care when you do it. I strongly recommend you do it, and don't fall behind. Keep up with the readings. But honestly, it's a whole lot of work to run a report chapter by chapter every week. and I just don't want to do that. So at the end of the semester, I'm going to run the report, and it will tell me how much of the Zybook you completed. So when your final project is due, I'll run it probably right about 6 p.m. or so, and we'll be fine. Next things, projects. We're going to have individual projects we'll be working on. Should have 4 of them if everything works out well. Again, probably about 2 weeks long each. I'll get them spaced out in here. And those will all be in Canvas, you'll see. We'll have a midterm exam. The current plan is to do that during lab time on 10/19. I think that should work for everybody. I think I just had one other person enroll, and we might be over our limit of people. We can technically only put 14 of you plus me in the lab at once. So we might have some problem with that, and I'll adjust. I have to see exactly what it is. So, and they probably don't want me asking you guys to sit out in the hall or something. So I'll figure out a plan for this. If we can't do it in the lab, you'll have plenty of heads up. But that'll be the only exam we have in the class is the midterm. And instead of a final exam, we will have a final project, which is fantastic. So there's no big high pressure, sit down for 3 hours, answer a bunch of questions sort of exam. You'll have about a month or so to work on this final project. It's hopefully will be interesting enough to you. If you don't find it interesting, I'm sorry, but I'm doing my best given we're in intro to coding class to find something that's sort of meaningful, and we can go from there. Yeah, so all that together, right? 25 plus 25 is 50, 70, 80, 90, 100%. And then this distribution scale should be the same through all of your classes everywhere. So if you get to 94%, you're going to get an A. So if you're the kind of person who cares about particular letter grades and GPAs, you'll know what you need to hit to get to that letter. And I do round things. So a 93.5 will round up to a 94. A 93.1 does not round up, unfortunately. So keep that in mind when you're working on your assignments here, if that's what you need. So the tentative schedule here, again, tentative, if it needs to change, I will let you know. We pretty much do 1 chapter a week, except for exceptions and modules, because they're really, really tiny. Those ones are quick enough we can stick together in a single week. And then we get all the way through plotting, and then we are done. We'll have our final project to do. Recursion, we don't need to hit super deep, which is nice, so this will free up a little bit of time after Thanksgiving break for you to be working on your final project. Same with plotting. It's probably not going to take a whole 2 lecture sections for us to go over that, so you'll have some time, class time reserved for you guys to work on that, extra time I should say, for me to answer questions and whatnot that you have. And another note, after Thanksgiving break, we are fully remote on our labs no matter what. The idea is after people go home for Thanksgiving and go back and possibly have more exposure, we're just not going to come back in person. So we'll do our last 2 labs remotely. And we may or may not have a plotting lab. Oh yeah, we'll have time because the next Monday after that. I left the Mondays out because this is just the lecture dates, not the lab dates. And we don't have a lab on 9/7 because of Labor Day. So the first lab will be 9/14, where we'll cover all of that stuff essentially. It won't be too bad, I promise. This is all intro stuff, and by the time you've gotten here, you have practiced in Zybooks, which is pretty cool. Like, it's got its own online editor that you can use, which is actually really neat for a textbook. So you can try the stuff out right away and just have it work. Yeah, so and we'll have a little bit of time for midterm review. I'll give you last year's midterm, so you can see how I write my questions, what they look like, all that sort of stuff. So hopefully you'll feel nice and prepared. The quizzes and the midterm and everything else is open book, open notes, open internet. If I give you a problem that you can find an answer to online, that's my fault. In terms of you copying someone else's work, I get paid a lot of money as a software developer to copy stuff off of this wonderful website called Stack Overflow. I know it exists, right? So I'm going to do my best to be creative with assignments and come up with things that are not easily found when you Google, and that's my job. So as long as you cite your source, we'll be okay. And we'll get into that in just a second here. The course and university policies. So specific to my course is the academic integrity policy. There's information about academic integrity in your student handbook, all that sort of stuff. Sharing code is plagiarism because you're copying someone else's work. right? So typically the rule of thumb, and obviously I know people talk to each other in chat and whatnot. We have our own Discord server, so I'm not expecting you never to talk to each other, but my rule of thumb is you can talk to each other about concepts, about ideas, about approaches, but when you have to start taking notes and like, oh, okay, step, and like get into the details, you've gone too far. So that's your typical rule of thumb. If you're not sure, ask me. Right? I'm more than happy to talk to you before you turn something in and present it as your own work. And the dean's office does get notified. We now have a university-wide process. It's a 3-strike policy. On your 3rd academic integrity violation, you will no longer be welcome at the University of Michigan Dearborn and will be expelled. So we do take this very seriously, as well you guys should too. Honestly, this is a pet peeve of mine and really pisses me off when people cheat, because it is devaluing the degree for everyone else. So when other people hire U of M Dearborn grads, and if they hired someone who cheated their way through, they're going to suck, and they're going to think we did a terrible job teaching you, and they're not going to want to hire other graduates. So it's in your own best interest to ensure that your classmates aren't cheating as well. So don't share your code with them if they ask. Right? Discuss ideas, discuss design, perfectly fine, but don't give them your code. Right? People need to do the work and earn their degree. So the penalty for that, in my course, and it is different course by course because, sure, that's how we do it here, is failure of the class. There's no, you get a 0 on the assignment, there's no, you try again, you will fail the class immediately. That's just what it is. So do your own work. And if you're not sure, ask me, please. I'm happy to look at things before if you're not sure, but I do take this very seriously. I did have a class over the summer, last summer actually, where 8 people all found an answer to one of my questions on Chegg. I hate Chegg, by the way. They're a terrible site. The idea of it being a study resource, fine, but it's just gone too far at this point, and I don't like them at all. So 8 people failed that summer because they all used the solution from Chegg. So that's not cool. Just don't do that, please. And don't post my stuff on Chegg, please. Right? Like, all the videos and stuff are available, but the assignments, don't go post on Chegg asking for help. Right? That's a violation of academic integrity. If I give you a question that's already out there, fine. Right? You win Google because you found the answer. But don't post something online, get an answer to it, and then be like, oh, I found it online. Here's my source, and cite your source. And that's not cool. So for projects and homework, I don't take anything late. The reason is when a project is due, I will go over the solution in lecture time. After I've gone over a solution, I'm not going to take it from you. Hopefully that's pretty obvious. So there are extenuating circumstances, and if you get prior written approval, I can work with you, because then I'll know, hey, you had to go to the hospital for whatever it was, or a family member got super sick. I won't go over the solution, and then I can still take it from you. So you just work with me, right? Let me know ahead if it's possible, right? I'll work with you, but I can't make any promises. And then some other university-wide information. The student food pantry still is open by appointment, which is fantastic. So contact them if you're in need of any support there. And then all the other university-wide policies are available in Canvas. You should be able to go find them all there. I'm doing a live stream class because for my particular learning style, I don't like the remote asynchronous learning where you just watch something and then if you have questions you have to follow up over email or whatever it is, and I think that interrupts the learning process, at least for my style. If you like it, great. You guys are welcome to be fully remote, except for possibly that midterm. I'll let you know. So that's an option for you there. So there's no mandatory attendance. Same with lab. I'll have the lab assignment. It will be due by the next week, end of day. So if you don't want to come to lab and you're not comfortable with it, that's perfectly fine. If you just can't make it to lab, that's perfectly fine. You've got the week to do it. So that's all up to you. I trust you guys to be adults and to get your work done. We talked about academic integrity specific to the course. There's counseling, disability services. If you need some sort of accommodation through the Americans with Disabilities Act, please talk through the office there for disability services. They'll get in contact with me, and then I can offer reasonable accommodations. I can't do anything unless I get the official notice. Hey, Uncle Bill, thanks for dropping by here on Twitch. Safety, again, We're not on campus most of the time. We are on Mondays. We have our new policy. You have to wear masks anywhere on campus, in the lab as well. And then for harassment, sexual violence, bias, discrimination, there's reporting processes that you guys can go through if you feel there's an issue. Please take advantage of that. We want you to feel free to ask. Or if there is an issue, please bring it to someone's attention so we can deal with it. We're happy to do that. All right, so that wasn't so bad. Again, sorry, you hopefully have read this before, and that was a lot of repeating here, but wanted to pull out those particular highlights. Now the other thing, you might have needed to install Python before Pycharm. So if that does show up, you just Google Python, python.org, you can go to downloads right away. And we're using version 3. Whatever. The latest is usually the best. So we're on 3.8.5, perfectly fine. If you have a slightly older one, that's not a problem at all. Version 2 will give you some headache. So there's decent amount of changes between version 2 and version 3 in the world. And version 2 is still being supported. It's officially at end of life, but lots of people were doing things in 2 and just never migrated over to 3 because 2 worked, and it's a lot of work to migrate your code. Officially not supported anymore, so great, move up to 3 and you'll be fine. It's not too bad. You download it, install it, should be good. So in terms of Pycharm, let me launch out Pycharm here. Again, just look up Pycharm. It's from JetBrains. They have a lot of good products. Pycharm is pretty good. Ooh, I searched Pycharm. I want someone else's. No, don't click the ad. So we'll go find JetBrains Pycharm. The Community Edition is perfectly fine for anything we'll be doing in class. If you go to sell something, do pay attention to the license. I'm pretty sure we can't do that with Community, but it's honestly nothing I ever look into because it's free for development. We want the free Community Edition. Should ask me here in a second. Come on, Community, yeah, free open source, cool. So should be fine. Again, I haven't actually particularly looked into the license at all, but go download those, and you should be all set to get up and running. If you do have trouble, let me know. Hop in the Discord. We can do some screen sharing, those sorts of whatever else, and I'll get you all set up, ready to go. So in Pycharm, well, we're just going to start out with making a new project. Again, we're not going to get too far today. I'll work on covering more of Chapter 1 from Zybook on Thursday. So it's going to want to put your projects here in Pycharm. We're going to move those in a little bit, but I haven't told you about GitHub yet, so don't worry about it. That's perfectly fine. And then it's got a little drop down here, this project interpreter. This is a little bit interesting in terms of Python development because Python is very universal and you can run it on many different platforms. If you are interested enough and keep on going, the next course is 2001 for Computer Science 2 for data scientists. We'll do one of our lab exercises where we actually run stuff on Unix using the college Unix server. We can terminal in and do all sorts of fun stuff, or SSH in and do all sorts of... It's not even really fun. It's terrible developing there because we don't have Pycharm. But we do the lab exercise and we show, yes, it does work in different environments. For now, I'm using Windows. If you're on Mac or Linux, it will run for you perfectly fine, best I can tell. I haven't had any issues with it before when people were fans of Mac. I'm not a Mac person myself, so I don't, but that's okay. So in terms of interpreter, when you do install Python, there's the base Python install. So I installed to C Python 3.7 Python, or you can make a virtual environment. Now it's typically recommended you use a virtual environment because other things we can do in Python will install other libraries that you might not want to put in your main install. We do that near the very end of the class, so it's probably not a big deal, but what you don't want to do is make a new environment every single project. And we'll do this as we work through it. So every assignment, every lab, every homework project will be a new Python project or Pycharm project so we can track it, keep it all separate, and try and organize things nicely. If you don't have the virtual environment, we can go make one. You'll say, hey, I want a new virtual environment. It will say something about what you want to do with it. You can put it wherever you want to put it. So I put mine in scripts. I don't know why, but that's where I put it, sure. And I use that one every time. Again, it doesn't make all that much of a difference. Hey, Professor Peter, how was your class today? It's like we got a couple math folks hanging out with us now. Gonna learn some Python. Thanks for coming by. I even have a Nightbot command. Give them a shout out. You guys can ask questions. I much prefer talking. This whole I am the only one talking here and no interaction and discussion makes me a little sad. I miss meeting people in person. So, oh sweet, yeah. I love that you use Python in your math classes. That is the coolest thing ever, and makes me really jealous that I took calculus and just did math. But that's my particular interest. So. So we're talking about our virtual environment here. Again, if you don't use one, it should be perfectly fine. We'll get to it in lab when we get there. But if you have one, great. That's no problem. Just make sure you're not doing it every project. The only reason is you're just doing a lot of extra work that you don't need to do. So I'm going to use my existing one, perfectly fine. Looks like I'm still on 3.7 too. Maybe I should have downloaded 3.8. But as far as we care, it'll do the exact same stuff. All right, so we get an untitled project because I'm terrible and didn't add a nice name for it. Now, there's this rule in programming that the very first project you ever run and ever do for any language, you need to make the computer say hello world. I don't know who came up with the rule, but that's the rule, so we're going to follow it. So when you first start a project, you don't get anything. So I'm going to right-click on my folder and say, hey, I want a new Python file. And I'll just call it hello. And then remind me to zoom in here. There we go. Enhance, enhance, enhance. Can you guys see the letters okay? It's probably not too terrible. If it's too small, let me know. Hello, syntax error. All right. So to make Python say hello world, it's really easy. You say print, and you put in parentheses. And then Python's fun. You can use a single apostrophe to quote things, or you can use a actual quote mark to quote text. Either one is okay. We'll get to why one may or may not be better. Sure. So whichever one you want to use is perfectly fine. I'm used to using the double quotes. That's just me. But again, if people will use either, and it really doesn't matter to Python because it's a fantastic language. So I'm going to say print hello world. And then in hello world, if you typo, you're going to fail the class. Just FYI, you must spell things 100%. No, I'm kidding. I misspell things all the time. And Pycharm is great because it has a spell checker. Like, how amazing is that? All right. So I'm going to go to run, and I say run. If you like keyboard shortcuts, Alt-Shift-F10. Sure, perfectly fine. The very first time you run it, it says, hey, what do you want to run? You need a configuration. We say hello. And it's going to pick up that virtual environment that we set up, and life should be good. And then down below, enhance, 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 enhance. Man, if only we could do that like in the real world, just like they do in those CSI shows and stuff like that, or Bones. Does anyone else watch Bones? I know the show's a little old by now, but like the visualizations they have Angela do are just fantastic, even if it's all made up. We get hello world. It tells us what it's doing here. So Python is a fun language in that it is an interpreted language. Other languages you might learn, like C++ or Java or C# or lots of other ones, are compiled languages, where you take some code in English and you hit a button that says compile, and a process runs and then spits out something that can be run on your computer. In Python, we take a plain old text file. They typically end with .py. They don't have to at all. There's no rule that says it must be .py. It's just a file extension. But that's our convention, and we love convention when it comes to coding because it just makes life easy. We follow conventions because everyone does them, and then we never have to worry. What happens is it actually calls the Python interpreter, which will read this file and do the things that it says. So if you want to, and you're a fan of terminal or command prompt or PowerShell or whatever, so this is actually PowerShell in the Windows terminal, which is a fantastic tool, by the way, because you can have tabs. Like, that's the coolest thing ever. Sadly, that is the coolest thing ever because we never used to have tabs in Windows land. So it always makes me excited every time I get to use tabs. Professor Peter says Python is for people who like me who never remember the standards in a language. Yeah, it's not worth the overhead. Let's just make it easy. It's no problem. All right, I've got some. I have extra stuff in my profile for my development work. It's being really slow here, but okay. Finally, I can show you. So, if you're not familiar with all the command prompt navigation here, that's okay. CD / will take you to the root of the drive you're on. I'm on the C drive, so I'm going to basically follow this path here. I could copy paste, but I want to show you a couple things as we go. So I'm going to CD into users, and I just type US, and then I hit tab. Tab is the autocomplete key, which is phenomenal, because any good programmer worth their salt is lazy. And I do mean that in the nicest way possible. I mean that as in we're efficiently lazy. We're not going to do more work than we need to do just for the sake of doing it. Right? So if I don't have to type all the letters, I'm not going to type all the letters. Right? So I'm just going to type first couple letters like E for Eric, and I'm going to hit tab, and it's going to go look up the next folder with that name, which is perfect. So I go to Documents, I go to Pycharm, and I go to Untitled. I'm sorry, I'm following the wrong path here. I want this one here, the one on the left, not the one on the right, because I want to call Python. So I'm going to just back up a little bit. If you hold Control and backspace, it'll backspace a whole word, by the way, which is, again, another lovely shortcut. So users, Eric C, the virtual environment, and then scripts, and then Python.exe. Oh, that's right. I didn't need the CD for change directory. I can just run it right from here. So C:\/ users / Eric / virtual environment / scripts / Python. There's a bunch of P things there, so I'm just tabbing through. Just keep on tabbing. You'll find your next one there. Python.exe. Perfect. And then a space. So I'm going to call the Python executable. And if I just hit go, I actually get a prompt here, which is fun. And I can do the same thing. I can say print hello world, and it will print out hello world and bring me back. You see these triple greater thans? Those greater thans or less thans? I can never remember which direction is which. Whichever one it is. This is a live session here you can use in interpreting Python. Greater than sign, confirmed by a math professor. Thank you. So 3 greater thans are the prompt. I don't actually want that because I want it to run the script. So that's for doing it live. For just running a script, again, we'll do the same thing. And I don't want to have to type that all again. So I'm going to hit the up arrow. We'll bring back this command from my history here. Just by the way, if none of this makes any sense, that's really okay. I'm just showing you we can do this so that you know it exists. All the other time we're going to do it here in Pycharm. But I want you to understand sort of like this is what's happening behind the scenes to make life easy, and we don't have to do it this hard way anymore. But it's fun to see it at least once. So I'm going to call Python, and instead of just running it where I get the live interpreter, I want it to run my script. So again, C, users, Eric, documents, Pycharm, untitled, hello.py. And now the Python executable will go read this file, and it will do the things it said. In our case, we told it to print, right? Welcome to CIS 1501. And again, I'm not going to bother going back and doing it again. That was it for the command line until you get to the next semester. But we're great. Notice there's that little yellow underline. Those are warnings that we're not following the Python conventions. A convention says we should have a new line at the end of the file. The new line is just a blank line. I don't know why, but it wants one. So if you make it go away, it'll stop being irritating if you're a little bit OCD like me. So we can just make it stop, which is cool. All right, and if I go to run this one, I get hello world and welcome to CIS 1501. Fantastic. So we have done our first program ever in Python. We've made the computer do something. Again, something similar to this will be our first lab, so don't sweat it too much. Not going to be a big deal. So let me go and go over to GitHub here. So GitHub is a hosting provider of the Git source control tool. Git is open source, if I remember right. I'm pretty sure it is. It was started by Linus Torvald, who started Linux because he did not like the current source control tools and knew he could do better, which he did. So Git is relatively standard in the industry nowadays. There are a couple other tools out there that we use for source control, but it's fantastic. We love Git, and GitHub itself offers it as a service free to open source groups and for small projects like ours, and for education. You can get a free license as well. And then they make money by selling this hosting service to large organizations, enterprises. So they're really good at storing code online in the, quote, cloud, which all of us know is just someone else's computer. Right? There's no real cloud, it's just someone else's computer. This is a little bit squished. I changed my resolution recently because someone said it streams better, but now I look all squished here, and that's a little sad, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to repositories, and I'm going to make a new repository here in a second. New repository. All right, come on. There we go. New repository. And this will be CIS 1501 Fall 2020. So this will be the public repository for the course. So all things code that I do will go in here, so you can download them, look at them, whatever you want to do with them for the examples, and you won't have to go download files out of Canvas, which is terrible. Right? Canvas is not a source control tool. The other great thing about GitHub is after you guys make your own GitHub usernames, I'll make repositories for you. And when I make repositories for you, you can make sure that you can get your code in the cloud on someone else's computer. And if you can see it in the cloud, I'll be able to see it in the cloud, and you won't have to email me code files. It irritates me to no end when people email me code files because I don't want to download your code and have to go do all this ugly stuff to view it. GitHub is a fantastic tool. They have some great collaboration stuff built right in, so I can leave comments on your code at individual lines, right? So I can say, hey, at this line number 7, whatever it happens to be here, right, there's a problem, right? You see the line numbers here on the left, 1, 2, 3. Again, this one's not very interesting. Yeah, thanks for coming by, Professor Peter, and bringing the class. You guys take care. So leaving comments at a line level is fantastic. So mine will be public because I want everyone to see the code in the class. I could make it private and then add you individually, and it's just a big obnoxiousness, so I'm not going to do that. When I make repositories for you guys, I'll make them private, so you can see it and I can see it, and that's it. And that will be easy. If you want to make it public after the class is done, you're more than welcome to. You can start making your GitHub profile and keeping that out as a little library of all the stuff you've done, or portfolio, is that our technical term? So when I make repositories, I'm going to add a README, I'm going to add a gitignore, and for mine I'm going to add a license. I think the MIT license is the easy one that just says, hey, just attribute, which is fine. And you can go check it out and figure it out, whatever here. The gitignore file is really nice and important because it makes sure we don't add files to Git that we don't need. And I'll talk a little bit more about Git in just a minute, the things that it does. We'll do it with an example because it's fantastic. So I'm going to scroll all the way down and find Python. Fantastic. And then we have a README. So I'll make a repository. So this will all be the first lab that we do. So we'll do it in lab. Hopefully you'll have a chance to try it beforehand because our lab isn't for 2 weeks, which is kind of disappointing. But that's okay. You're welcome to try it on your individual computers and that sort of thing. So once it's done, we're also going to use the desktop GitHub client. So it's desktop.github.com. You can download it. I think I forgot the link for it in the syllabus. I can go fix that in a little bit. We're going to download the client. And what we're going to do with the client is we do this thing called clone the repository. So Git is our technical term for it is a distributed source control tool. So anybody who has a clone of the repository has anything and everything that's in it and all the history behind it, which is awesome. So I'm going to go to File and Clone Repository. I'll also post this as a document, so you don't need to worry too much about it. So like, don't be scrambling and trying to take notes or anything, because I'll post you a little PDF that with all the steps and screenshots and whatnot. But we'll get there. I have a bunch of repositories because I keep making them for all my courses. Sure. So yours will likely be much faster than this, but I have to go find all 600 something or whatever because I've been doing these forever. So found my repository. Now, you guys probably don't want to clone mine because it's public. You guys can clone it, but you can't make changes to it. And then things will get a little bit confusing if you do try and make changes to it in GitHub, and then it might be hard to refresh and synchronize it and get down the new latest and greatest stuff. So I don't typically recommend you clone mine. You'll clone yours, which will be the same thing, and then dash your username here. Whatever your username is, I'll make your repository with your GitHub username. Life will be good. I'll do that coming up. I'll have a little Google form, again, you can fill out. So, but for now, I'm going to clone mine. Now, what a repository is nothing more than a folder, but it's a folder that Git is watching. A repo hoarder, I mean, I don't usually delete them because the students still have access to them, and I have no idea if they actually have copies or not anymore. So it's I don't know, I leave them around just in case. I guess you could say I'm a hoarder. That's kind of sad. Now I'm feeling bad about it. So a couple shortcuts. The GitHub desktop client is not required for using GitHub, right? Our tools, even Pycharm has integrations right with Git. The reason I like the desktop client is that it will be the same regardless what language you're using. And you can use GitHub to store any sort of files, right? It's nothing more than a folder that is tracked and versioned by Git. So two super helpful links. In repository, you can go to Show and Explorer or View on GitHub. Both of those are going to be your best friends. So Show and Explorer will open up your Windows Explorer, whatever it happens to be, and you'll notice it's just a folder and it's almost blank. It has a readme.md, that's a markdown file. Right? That is what this thing here is. That's the readme file. And Git is nice. It will show, or GitHub is nice. It'll show those as nice little markdown formatted things. There is also, where did my folder go? A license, right? I picked the MIT license. So if you open this guy up, I'll say, hey, how do you want to open it? Notepad is fine. It doesn't matter. Any text editor. And it copyrights it with your name, whatever you put in. And then, right, this is the standard MIT license. Again, free to use. There's also a git ignore file. What this one does is it says, don't add these files. What's up? No. Oh, sorry. All right. My little toddler can climb over the baby gate now. That's unfortunate. Yeah, so this one here will open up. Again, Notepad is fine. You can open it with anything. Any text editor is okay. It says anything that matches these, don't go and add to GitHub. Again, the idea is we don't need certain files in GitHub. So don't go save them. And it's a bunch of other things based on Python, and we should be fine. So the standard one is usually good enough. Not a problem. And then there's a .git folder. If you don't have your view options set to show hidden items, you won't see that. And if you don't have file name extensions, some of these will look really funny. So typically for developers, you always have file name extensions and you show hidden items. So .git is where all the magic happens. Don't ever touch that folder. Okay, just leave it alone. Git will do the right thing. GitHub will do the right thing with that Git folder, and it'll be fine. Now, all it is a folder. If I put a new file in here, like, hey, here's just a text document, test.txt, I'll see here in the GitHub desktop client, there's a new file. Right? Now you know it's new because it's green. Green means new, yellow means modified, and red means deleted. Now, it says it's empty because there's nothing in it. If I go add some text here, first line, second line, third line, yada, 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 yada. Sure. Put something in, save and close it. Now in the GitHub client, it'll show me, hey, there's stuff at line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4. Perfectly fine. And here's where all the magic happens. So it's tracking files inside of the folder. And what you can do with Git is you make these things called commits. So a commit is nothing more than a snapshot of the files in that folder at that point in time. So if I've got 100 different files, the commit will be the snapshot of all 100 of those files, whatever it is. And typically what we see is we see changes between commits. So since the last commit, this is new, right? That's perfectly fine. So test.txt, you have to give it a commit message or a commit summary. The description is totally optional. People will typically look at these and maybe or not, depending on your conventions or your workplace culture, they might use descriptions. Give it something meaningful here in the summary because you'll see what is out here, and this and I'll show you here in GitHub. You can see these listed quickly as a history of commits and all the commit messages. So this is creating or making test.txt. It tries to give you a helpful one, but it's not always all that good. And I say commit. So commit means I now have taken a snapshot of this folder, CIS 1501 fall 2020, at this point in time. Once you have a commit, once you have that snapshot, you can almost always get back to that point in time. So if I go through and I do a bunch of stuff or I delete things and I don't like it, I can essentially hard reset and say, hey, just go back to this point in time, which is super helpful because it's easy to screw things up if we're not careful. So it's nice to have the commits. So typically I'll tell people to commit early and often. Once you have the commit, you are almost safe. There's one last step we need to do because, again, it's a distributed source control system. So my local copy of the repository has it here. and it tells me, oh, hey, I've got a local commit waiting to be pushed to github.com. And that means that the central repository, github.com, doesn't know about it. So if I know about it, but github.com doesn't know about it, it's no good. So you can use this push button, you can use this push button up here, and this button up here in the top right actually changes based on what the status of your local repository is. So it goes and pushes. The technical term here is origin. Origin's that central location here, in our case, github.com. And now the button should go back to fetch, now that there's nothing to do. So fetch just says, hey, are there any changes? It asks the central repository. And then if there are, then we can pull changes. So it's a push and pull system. So you pull changes from the central location down, you push changes from your local up. And typically we love source control systems when we work in teams, because that way you don't have to be sending files back and forth and doing terrible things that you should feel bad about, right? We all connect to the same central system, the same origin, and we can collaborate. It's fantastic. In the next class, we'll do a team project, and you guys will love it. I promise. Doing the team project is a lot of fun. It's actually really lonely to be a developer who never works with people, right? Writing code collaboratively is super fun because you get to talk with each other, and you get to bounce ideas off of each other, and it really does give you a better product. Git is your RPG when you're about to travel the land with only 1 health. Save early and often. Yes. So just like those RPGs. Save early, save often. Like Skyrim, just do the quick save, right? Hit your F5 anytime you're about to start a fight, just so you don't get screwed up. Right? Commit and push. Commit and push. We'll get used to that habit. Again, no one says you have to, but once you've pushed and we come over to the github.com online, here, I'm going to close mine here because I wanted to show you that really cool shortcut. If you don't have it handy, you go to repository and view on GitHub. Now, when I make your private repositories, it might come up and say, uh-oh, I can't find that, because you have to be logged in. So whatever your default browser is, make sure you're logged in to GitHub. Once you've done that, it'll go find it. And what's cool is you can actually browse this stuff on their website really nicely. So I can see, oh, hey, there's a test.txt file changed 3 minutes ago. I can click on it, and it's even going to give me the text view line by line by line. And this is what I'm talking about. So I can like click on line 3, and now I get a URL to line 3, right? Which is really nice. So I can see all this information about it. You can edit stuff online. I strongly discourage that. There's no reason you can't, but it's easy to get stuff out of sync, and it's a terrible editor. I mean, it's not. It's actually a decent editor, but it's not a development environment, right? You want a development environment to change things, not this little web editor. But just for fun, we're going to do that here. So 4th line from github.com, just to show you that you can. And again, it says, hey, do you want to commit? Don't worry about this branch stuff. We'll do that next semester. 4th line from github.com. Again, make your messages relatively specific. I'm not going to grade you on them or anything. They're really for you, but you want to get into that good habit. Now I can see the file version now is showing me the latest and greatest. But now when I come back to my GitHub client, it doesn't know about it. That's what that fetch button's handy for. Every so often it will go and fetch automatically. I forget what the refresh is. So I'm just going to hit fetch, and it's going to show me, hey, I need to pull because I am out of sync. There's one commit from origin that I need to pull remotely. So I can hit pull. And back in my folder here, when that thing is done spinning, I can open up test.txt. And I now have 4th line from github.com editor. Fantastic. Right, again, if I wanted to change some stuff, I can delete yada yada yada. We'll delete the 3rd line and be confused. And 5th line, 5th line. I think that's spelled right. 5th. There's another F, right? Yeah, it's definitely not 5th. That's probably wrong. Pretty sure that's wrong. Someone help me out in Twitch chat. How do you spell? I'm a terrible speller. Nobody? That's okay. We'll call that good enough. And I guess I want to save. And now GitHub, the desktop client says, hey, it's been modified. Yellow, right? And I even get per line. How do you spell the word 5th? Isn't it F-I-F-T-H? Yeah. Yeah, thank you. You guys got my back, right? So you'll see at the line level where changes were made, which is the beauty of this tool. So almost all code that we write here is done in English, or possibly other languages, but in plain text. We're just writing stuff in just letters. later it will get turned into code and run, or the Python interpreter will run it. So we can say, hey, this line changed and this line stayed the same, or we added this line, whatever it is, but these lines didn't change. So Git is really good at changing stuff at the line level, which is really important, how it tracks files and stuff. This is messing with the file. I'll make a commit. Again, I have a snapshot, a point in time that I can ever go back to if I want. So you can go see that here. This Changes tab is typically where we work, but you also have the History tab, and History gives you every single commit, and you can look at what happened in that commit, right? So here the file was added, here's the new line, those lines were moved. So it's a little bit silly because it says, hey, this line was removed and this line was added. There was no end of line character here where we did have it here. So technically it was different. It was hard for us to tell because we're people, and we don't read machine code like that, but that's okay. Oh, and it reminds me I need to push, right? So let me go push, and we can see it. You can also see that same thing in github.com if you go to commits. So from code, you can go to commits, and you'll see that same thing, right? You can see each individual commit. You can go look, you just click on the title of it, it's a link, and you can see what changed, file by file by file, line by line by line. And here's where I love it, because I can go in here and I can leave a note, like, hey, this was bad. So when you guys turn in your code, you're going to give me links to stuff on github.com, and then I can go on here and at the line level leave you feedback and say, hey, this didn't work right, or this could have done that, whatever it happens to be, as I grade you. And people tend to like that, and it turns out it's a decent tool for it, because that's what it's made for, is collaboration. Not necessarily assessment, but the collaboration piece here. So that's the GitHub client. So I'm going to send you guys a Google form you can fill out with your github.com username. It can be anything you want. It doesn't have to be your real name. It is public, FYI, just like our Twitch streams. Oh, thank you. I need to hydrate. So coffee is hydration. If you can't tell, I drink a lot of coffee. This is my second pot of the day, and I actually should refill my cup here. All right, let me refill. And I don't pour it over the laptop anymore, but I used to get it really close to the mic so you could get that good ASMR experience. But hopefully you hear that. So, and I even have my only emote, because thanks to my students, I am a Twitch affiliate. And you can use some channel points to get the coffee emote, which is fantastic. I'm jealous of, is that Naroditsky's coffee icon there? Daniel Naroditsky, I think that's his coffee icon there in chat. Yeah, anybody can join the Discord. It's public. At some point we'll probably set up private student channels just for reasons. I don't know. If you students want a private channel, let me know. Sure, I'd be happy to work with you, and we can set that up in Discord. It's not too hard to set up, but I think I mentioned I'm just a big fan of public knowledge. I joined the Knowledge Fellowship a while back when I got hooked up with Professor Milko, when they highlighted us for using Twitch in teaching, back before it was a real thing, maybe before Zoom became so popular. That's !TKF to get more information on the Knowledge Fellowship. It'll help you out, give you some information about other things you can go learn, just because we've a bunch of people who love to share our knowledge. I'm happy to get paid by the college to do this, but sure. Just conserving institution rules, which, yep, no problem. I've just done this, and it seems to work well, because some people do Zoom really well, and a lot of people don't like Zoom. I'm actually a student myself. I'm working on the Doctor of Engineering degree that just launched at Dearborn last year. Yeah, last year. And I was just in a Zoom session, and okay, sure, it is what it is. This pandemic learning is crazy. So God bless you all, new students, returning students, as you're working through this, because I feel your pain. I understand it. I have Zoom recordings I need to be watching every week now. It's a lot of fun. And I mean that in the nicest way, fun. So I try and use these resources, Twitch and Discord, because I think they work better. And again, having a little bit of community is really cool. Making it open and public, other people can join, answer questions. That's awesome. And we should be good to go. So do check it out. I'm all rambling here because I started drinking coffee and forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, so back to the course here. Go and get the iBook. You're going to need that. No, it's not so bad. It's just one class. It's on data mining. It actually should be really interesting. I'm a big giant geek. I love learning things. It's one of the reasons I got into teaching, because after I got my master's, I looked for PhD programs that would take me part-time, and I couldn't find any in the area. There were some online programs, but despite being a programmer and a giant nerd, I just hate online classes. I'm much more a synchronous learner, having discussions, having some back and forth with the people teaching. So I really love Twitch chat and the fact that we can sort of have that conversation going, and that's okay. So my classes, I've always been, when I take them on-ground classes for grad school and stuff, if I can help it. That's just the way I learn. I know everybody learns different, so maybe you prefer the recordings and do them at your own pace, and that's fantastic. So I've got some resources. You reach out, ask me questions whenever. I've got the dedicated office hours after class. You guys can hang out, ask more questions if you want. I'll be around. But honestly, you don't need to wait for that. If you have a question, contact me. I'm happy to help. My typical rule of thumb, again, it's all just sort of it's a work in progress. If you're working on a project, I'm happy to answer questions about it if you get stuck. Like the last thing I want is for you to be sitting there hour after hour after hour, frustrated and pissed off and just getting more and more mad at me and mad at Python and mad at school. Like, that's not productive for anybody. So what I do ask for is you spend at least 30 minutes to an hour or so doing that head banging, where you're like, let me try this, let me try this, let me try this, let me Google, let me ask around a little bit before you ask me, because that itself is a learning experience, right? Figuring out how to problem solve and how to go find resources for things is super useful. Tons of students love going to Stack Overflow to try and find solutions, and you occasionally can, but I find what most of Stack Overflow has is higher level stuff, right? This is assuming you've never ever used program, or you've never ever programmed before, right? We're going to take you from zero to the intro level coding. So we don't ever get anything that crazy advanced. And we'll just be honest, right? It's your very first class here. Oh, a stretch, thank you. So I have this wonderful loft bed that used to be my son's until he outgrew it because he kept hitting his head. So I have a desk underneath it. Get a nice stretch there, thank you. So do try and then reach out for help. Even on projects and the final project itself that are worth so many points, right? Like, I'm not going to say go away. At some point, I'll probably stop answering questions and I'll start asking you questions. And that's sort of, hey, your hint for, okay, let me go look up this particular thing. Like, oh, hey, why don't you go look at this chapter? After a certain point, I'll resort to that, which is, that should be fair. So I'm not going to give you solutions, but I'm going to give you the resources that you need to go find what you need to write your own solutions, if that makes sense. And that's typically how things work. I do occasionally look at a project when it's finished before you turn it in. I'm not fond of doing that because it takes me a lot of time, honestly. Oh, thank you. More hydration. Sorry, non-dairy, I'm not sure what that quote's in reference to. But that's okay. I'm not fond of reviewing them first because anytime you have anything due that's a project, so the labs themselves, I don't put rubrics out there. It's just get this task done. But for all the projects, I'll put a grading rubric out there that says, hey, here's how you get 2 points for this thing. Here's how you get 2 points for this thing. Here's how you get 3 points for this thing. Here's how you get 5 points for this thing. And you just check them off the list. And when I go grade, I just click, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, or like a little bit of partials every now and then. Like, you had it but didn't work. Maybe you get half points. So there's always going to be a grading rubric. So you should be able to grade it yourself. Is sort of the idea there. So before you turn in the project, you can go down the line and say, okay, did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? Did I do this? Oh yeah, on Stack Overflow or Stack Exchange. It's something else that could be found in the documentation. Go look it up. Yeah, that's my other favorite answer is go look in the syllabus. I don't have tons of information in the syllabus, so I don't have to resort to that very often. Like, hey, go look in the syllabus. So someone had asked about the iBook for students only. I mean, it's an online book. Anyone can buy it. This particular code actually registers you in my class online. I've never had anyone want to get the book before. There's other resources. If you're not enrolled in the class, find me on Discord. I'll get you other free resources. You don't have to spend some money. I promise. I was actually in the process of trying to find some OpenCourseWare for the class, but with everything going on, life just got busy, and I haven't had a chance to yet. I'm sorry. So we're using the zybook here as our official textbook. So that's what it is for that. So next session on Thursday, right, 9/3. I think all these dates are right. Every so often I have typos. Please tell me if I have a typo somewhere. Do let me know about that. Is this gap really that big? That doesn't seem... Oh, because classes end on a Monday, and then we have the break. Is that right? So we would have had class on the 14th, so we could have lab on the 14th. Our final exam on the 22nd. Okay, yeah, because there's a break on final exam. So I think our final exam would have been scheduled for the 22nd. We're not doing them in person. That should be correct, which is good. Like, the more time you guys get, the better to work on this. I don't want it to stress you guys out. I know lots of you have other classes and stuff going on, so right, that final project due date is just up to the very last minute, and then I have about 24 hours to turn them around and submit grades, which that's my problem, not yours. And thankfully, you guys are a relatively small class. I don't have 30 of you this time around or anything. All right, I think that does it for the course introduction. You can always come back to this video on Twitch. I'm going to try and export it out to YouTube so it will live longer. And I'll put the link somewhere to it in Canvas probably. I'll get that figured out. So sign up for GitHub, and I'll post a form. I'll post an announcement. Actually, might be the first assignment. Actually, it'll be easy. You guys can go find it. Give me your username. I'll make those repositories. And then on Thursday, we're going to talk about all of Chapter 1, which is like essentially Introduction to Python, a little bit more fine details about some of that stuff. And then we move. So we just keep on going, new topic week after week after week. If you get behind, you've got to reach out and tell me, because each chapter sort of builds on the chapter before it. Our projects will build on all of this information. So a project over here is not going to just be on functions. It's going to use all the other stuff from the chapters ahead of it. So it's really important we stay up to date, we don't get behind, and you just keep plugging away at it, even if it's frustrating. Reach out, let me know what's going on. I'll do my best to help with what I can. You can rewatch the videos, you can ask other people on Discord for what's going on, and we'll get you moving. So that's all I've got for today. Again, I'll let you know about the midterm plans, again, because we're limited to so many people in the room. So if that changes, I'll let you know with plenty of advance notice, so don't stress about it. So for now, just keep an eye out. I'll post the link shortly in Canvas for how you can give me your github.com username. I'm going to ask you a couple questions too. Usually in class we do a little get to know each other, like your name, your major, how long you've been in school, any experience you have, whatever. So I'll probably include that in the form just to help me get to know you better, what you're looking for out of the class. All some people want to do is pass, and honestly that's okay. Like, if that's your goal, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Other people really want to do this particular thing, or they're really driven to get an A because they need a certain GPA for whatnot. And do be aware, most of the internship programs I'm aware of usually want a 3.0 or possibly 3.3 or even 3.5 or higher when they look for hiring interns. So if your goal is just passing with C's, there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. You'll still pass and you'll still get your degree, right? C's get degrees. It's okay, but it's going to be harder to get one of those internship opportunities. So hopefully you're early on enough here in school. That tip will help you out. I did have a couple students who just got totally shut down because their math grades were C's, and that just tanked their entire GPA, which is unfortunate. I mean, they passed calculus, and their calculus is not the easiest class in the world. Just ask Professor Peter. He's a great teacher and a good resource, but the GPA does matter for things like that. After the fact, once you have the degree, some people care. Some of the large corporations just use that as sort of like a filter for new applicants. Like anyone with a lower than a 3 GPA, they just throw out. Not everyone does that, and especially small organizations and whatnot. We're much more open to those sorts of things. I've been involved heavily in the hiring process as a developer, so I get how some of that works. And then after you've had your first professional job, pretty much no one cares about your degree anymore, right? Your work experience will stand on its own. So it's we try and equip you, give you lots of knowledge, help you be a nice, well-rounded individual. The last thing we want to do is turn out those sort of stereotypical geek, never talk to anybody engineers. That's not how things work in the world anymore. And we actually had, let me see if I can find it. There was just a really good article shared. Our now former dean, where is it here? Yeah, let me pull this one up. here. Yep, Tony England is a fantastic guy. Used to be an astronaut. Or does it? Yeah, used to be. I don't think you say he still is, right? Because he was. And he talks about the well-rounded engineer. That's sort of the goal of what we're looking for. And the goal here at Dearborn, right? We want to develop people who are going to succeed in the industry. But we want those well-rounded people who are going to be leaders. You understand working across boundaries. Not just someone who understands the technology, but has some of those soft skills additionally to help make you successful. And that's the goal here with our program. And that's what we're looking to develop. So if you have any other questions, let me know. I'll be hanging out in Discord for a while after. Feel free to chat at me. If you at me, it will pop up a little bit nicer for me. If you just chat, like I've got to be watching it, which I'm going to try to be doing. But I'll be doing emails and other stuff in between. So, typical office stuff. So at me to get my attention. If you need to get a hold of me, call, text, email, any way that works best for you, let me know how I can help. And then if you guys don't mind, because this is Twitch, we should go raid somebody when we're done, because that's part of the fun of being in the Twitch community. So I just need to go find somebody real quick. If you want to bail, you're more than welcome to bail. This is totally just part of the silly fun part of Twitch. Let's see who's on. Let's see if I can find anybody in that Knowledge Fellowship group. Let's see. See who's on and streaming. Oh no, that's loud. Okay. I don't see. Oh, here we go. We'll try this one. This is another guy. He's a C# Fritz. Says he's streaming. C# Fritz. Oh, can I not rate? Maybe I can't rate his channel. Shoot. Oh boy. Oh, here. Let's do. Looks like Prof. Milko's on. We can rate him for fun. So again, he teaches chemistry. He's one of the reasons I got into a little bit more Twitch streaming, more than before. Should be a lot of fun. And again, I'll see you guys on Thursday. Oh, someone went wrong with my. Oh, come on, Twitch. Work for me here. Something went wrong. Raid. I can't raid. Oh, he turned off raids. Oh, he's doing a lecture is why. He's in the middle of recording a lecture. So we'll try UB Math Prof. Why not? You can learn some more math. There we go. All right, so we'll take it over to UB Math Prof. You can learn some math or just wave and say hi, tell him I said hello, and we can go from there. It's been fun. I'll see you guys on Thursday.